I gotta get it, don't mindset.
The BMW M SIM Cup returns stateside as we head to upstate New York to close out the first half of the multi-class madness. Hello everyone, welcome to RaceSpotTV, welcome to the iRacing Esports Network as we land up in preparation for the iRacing 6 hours of Watkins, Glen to bring the BMW M Hybrid V8 along with the M4 GT3 once more to the forefront of BMW esports. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to have your company here once again as we roll on out with 2 classes of competition. Don't forget you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing. Follow along with your favorite team and drivers across of the course of today's event. Well, if you're just joining us, boy, where have you been to start off this season? The BMW M SIM Cup is the next step of BMW esports competition after first seeing just the GTE or GT3 cars take full center focus. We now have multi-class action across of the sports car world, and well, what a first half of the season it has truly been. Daytona and Sebring at the start of the IMSA WeatherTech sports car season, but also at the start of our BMW M SIM Cup campaign. But we added in a trip to America's National Park of Speed as we went over to Road America. Let's not forget Nürburgring, our only European round so far. Spa, Fuji, Road Atlanta, and then one track still to be announced, all leading up to our season finale as we make our way on over to Suzuka. What are we fighting for, though? I say there's 2 classes of competition, but not much has changed compared to last year in terms of the points. Still, teams compete, drivers score points, drivers earn championship standings. Total prize pool pays out just under $50,000 with no BMW Sim Live at the end of this year. Don't forget we have per race prizes as well, although realistically we're more talking about the end of the season prizes, just because we like a good old championship fight. In terms of the LMDH class, well, the standings tell their own story. It has been dominated by one team that has picked up on this BMW M Hybrid V8 in a way that no one else seemingly has been able to do. Urano. The question is really, I think, going to be who can be most consistent out of these crews, especially given that Danny Lorenzo, Dominic Hoffman, and then Vlad Kimichev and Jonas Wolmar are only separated by 2-3 points respectively. The bonus point for fastest lap may very well come into play over the course of the 10-round season. Behind them, you've got one of the Apex Racing team drivers, Danny Shivishabo, has raced both for Pure Sims as well as Apex. He is one of the few drivers who have scored points in every round of the season. BS Turner have Pedro Sanchez Albert with 2 bonus points. Just goes to show how flying he is in this car. He may be quick by himself, but let's see what he can do with Valtteri Alander at his side once again. In GT3 standings, well, this is where it's looking a little bit more even. Although, having said that, 2 victories in the last couple of races have propelled Chris Lullum and Diogo Pinto to the very top of the standings, and, well, they start to now build a bit of a breakaway. It's on Luke McEwen, it's on Urano to start putting the pressure back onto the red line duo at the top. Otherwise, it may well come down to the 2 of them fighting for fastest lap honors to decide who wins the championship honors here in the GT3 class. We've landed in Watkins, Glen. For those that are new to this facility, well, boy, is it an exciting one. There is so much speed around this track, but you've got to temper it, especially in these multi-class races, with just a little bit of caution. Places like the inner loop. Line is so important. There's a big bump on the inside there that can kill some cars, and then as you descend in towards that boot section, through the toe, through the heel, where you do slow these cars down and you work through slower corners, just be that little bit more sensitive through traffic. GT3s and LMDHs are going to develop speed in slightly different ways at the end of the day. And so, the climb up through the S's on lap number 1. Apart from that, it's hopefully not a track where we're going to see too much drama, too much chaos. However, ultimately, it is Watkins Glen. It is high speed. It's also known for one thing, high track temperature. Going to be curious to see how that is going to fare out. Well, qualifying already underway here, and with the LMDH cars having got some provisional times onto the board, you're looking at your provisional pole position sitter. It's Arturo Melgar in the Drago Racing car, one of our new teams that we're going to be seeing over the course of the summer. Half a second clear of the rest of the field. Let's see what the representative times are going to be, though, because the likes of BS Competition, Williams still yet to put in benchmarks. 26.0 first time by for Melgar. It's a 26.1 second time by. Meanwhile, as Dominic Hoffman goes to the top in LMDH, for a moment it was provisional pole for the likes of the Williams Esports Playseat car. We've got to focus on it just because it's great to see this livery out on display. But I think we're going to see some interesting times start to slide on in across the board. Owen Carroll to, I think that was 6th position in the Apex Racing Academy car. BS Turner, Valtteri Alander to 3rd. Interesting to note that it's not going to be Pedro Sanchez Albert on the qualifying duties. Apex Racing Academy to 12th inside of the LMDH class. Of note, handful of cars going slow to set up their runs in qualifying. You've got Movano, you've got Race Clutch, and now we'll get to hopefully see what a couple of your GT3 runners have in store for us as we get set for the final LMDH laps to start. I think we're also going to hopefully see GT3 laps come to a close. Here's Luke McEwen, who's still got a ways to go, but on lap number 1 was only 6 thousandths off of the pace. Interesting to see the choice for the Apex Racing car to go on lap number 1 to try and get a lap time. Here we go, though, with the times. On lap 2 for GT3, it's Redline and Lullum that go up provisionally to pole. Williams Esports Razor within 4 hundredths of a second. We watch as Japard Esports in their stealth black machine sneak up into the top 10. A second Redline entry and Gianni Vecchio find their way forward up into contention as well. Plenty of strong names to keep an eye out as Grid and Go Esports and Sven Haase now rip away top spot. Fast times flying in left, right, and center for this 2-hour sprint. Qualifying actually somewhat important because track position plays such an important factor. The first time traffic swings around the BS Turner Zebra. Ryan Barneveld with a 142.760. So going to be only good enough for 15th spot for a team that we'd usually expect a lot more from if we can be perfectly fair. I have to wait and see for the Apex Racing team cars, excuse me, what they'll be able to do in GT3, because Guile, Valero, Jimmy and Túnez, 97 and 98, working their way to the lines right now. Race Clutch, I can tell you, have been dumped down to 10th in LMDH because Movano up to 6th. It's not going to be good enough for a top 10 spot for either of the Apex Racing cars. Valero to 12th and Túnez to 13th, and meanwhile Sean Campbell going to be starting at the very tail end of the LMDH field. Well, that was a bit of a roller coaster of a qualifying session. Times coming in thick and fast, but with 10 seconds left to go, it's Urano on top in LMDH, it's Grid and Go Esports on top in the GT3 class, but look at those margins, 13 thousandths in GT3, 62 thousandths in the LMDH class. With draft playing such a big factor here, surely we're going to see some intriguing racing over the course of 2 hours with a mandatory driver change. Ready to rumble though in upstate New York. Let's dial you down through today's starting grid. And so, Dominic Hoffman trying to assert the Urano domination in LMDH, this time is able to put the qualifying lap together. He'll roll alongside Arturo Melgar in that Drago Racing 696. Split liveried BS Turner machine inside of Urano Esports Huawei, which will see Joop de Ligt take us to the green flag. Don't forget Moreno Sarica in that Williams Esports Chill Blast entry. We'll have Movano's Nicholas Boo alongside to complete the top 6. Starting back in 7th, it's going to be Owen Carroll in the Apex Racing Academy car. You'll have the Stealth Black, Carl Janssen, Williams Esports Fanatec liveried machine alongside. Matt Farrow inside of row 5. Palace Reminit for Race Clutch rolls alongside. Another red and black machine. This time it's the third of the Urano contingent though. Jonas Walmar starts in 11th. You'll have the regular BS competition livery of Nathan Lewis for company on row number 6. But back in 13th, it'll be Pablo Espez rolling with Danny Chivichabo, trying to maintain a spot in the top 10 in points. Then watch for some of the newer entries that we've got, the likes of Sam Sutton in the DBM Beyond Blue 862. Boost and VDS by Undercut, a team that we are somewhat familiar with in special event top splits, starts in 16th. And Distinct.gg hoping to, I think, get at least one lap longer than what they survived in our last round of the championship. Sean Campbell, the only car not to really set a qualifying lap time, 2 seconds splits effectively 18 LMDH machines. Back with the GT3s, Grid and Go Esports. Well, we know they're going to be feisty. The question is, can they put it together over 2 hours? Sven Hassel will lead them to the green flag with Chris Lullum alongside in that Team Redline car. Williams Esports Razor see Daniel Pastor inside of Gianni Vecchio, but it is looking like a Williams Esports train on that inside line. Alessandro Pico jumps from the World Championship over to the GT3 cars into the Williams Esports BenQ number 4 alongside the privateer BMW M SIM Cup privateer number 69. The first of the Apex Racing team cars, Luke McEwen has no teammates around him in 7th spot. Leandro Andrerutti carries PGZ's hopes alongside him, with Redline and Tom Burns. Arnage and Nicholas Rubel are bookending your top 10. Luca Kita for Urano Esports HPC's Gal Valero in the second of the Apex Racing team cars, sharing row number 6 with him. Then the third of those Apex cars, Jimmy Antunes in that number 98 13th. New Williams Esports Hoisingveld livery in terms of not seeing this logo that big on the car before Cody Deeth brings the number 12 to the green with SimRC in their Bumblebee, ATRS in their number 13. BS Competition bring truck driver Norway Kiss out to play, and then Urano Esports Hiking Media on row number 9. It's Ryan Barneveld and then Rasmus Christensen for VG Racing Esports to complete the top 20. BS Competition Arnage, Jeopardy Esports, and then Arnage through your top 24. Williams Esports Playseat back in 25th position. Love the orange that we don't traditionally get to see here on RaceSpotTV. Japar, Door, and then Door, as well as Drago and Coffin Dancers through your top 30. It's a big GT3 class. Don't forget Valkyrie, and then I think one additional Williams Esports entry that will roll in 32nd position. Boy, what a monster field. Don't forget RaceSpot.tv/timing. You can follow along with live timing and scoring across today's race. So wherever you're watching RaceSpotTV, the iRacing Esports Network, let us know who you think is going to win. It's traditionally that time that I'd ask another commentator who they predict to come out on top. I'll put the question to you, the fans. Urano, the dominant force in this LMDH class, but by no means is dominance a precursor to victory. Are they going to be challenged by the likes of Drago? Are they going to be challenged potentially by BS Turner being able to put it together over 2 consecutive hours? Across 2 consecutive drivers as well, because let's not forget driver change is mandatory. And then we look in this GT3 class. Grid and Go Esports have pole position and a great spot once again, but Redline have 2 cars in the mix. As Williams Esports once again with both the Razor and BenQ cars that might look to try and insert themselves into the equation. Very difficult to try and pick that one out, I tell you. Obviously, there's going to be some bias. Dan Yeaman jumps in to cheer on the DBM crew, his own team. I'm sure if Sepp Schmalenbach is watching, he's totally not biased towards Urano Esports. On what is a very busy weekend in the sim racing world, drivers scattered all across. Some in Germany, some over in France, but our focus for the time being remains here on upstate New York. Ready to go, ready to hit the halfway mark of this BMW M SIM Cup. Multi-class madness descends on Watkins Glen. A preview of what we'll be in for the 6 hours. But it's time for 2 ultimate driving machines to pick up the throttle. We're racing for round 5 of the BMW M SIM Cup. Great jump there from Dominic Hoffman, who will lead them off in towards turn number 1. Don't forget though, no split class start. GT3 sees the green flag at the exact same time. Almost 3 wide as they run their way up through the S's for the LMDH classes. But look at the lead that Dominic Hoffman will build. Sven Haas is hoping to convert that lead into something similar. But now as they fan their way out on this back straightaway, on the run into the bus stop chicane for the very first time, who's going to be bravest of them all? No changing inside of the top 5 for the LMDHs. They single file themselves out for the very first time. There has been one crash. Nathan Lewis got tangled up at the very tail end of the field, and now he'll have to watch, because here come your GT3 machines. Obsidian Racing got tangled up in that one as well, and now it really checks up Sven Haas as they run their way down into the boot section. Half look there from Chris Lullum in the 20 Redline BMW GT3, but it was a half-hearted look at the best. Nathan Lewis has headed back off to the pit lane, but it leaves the Obsidian Racing car to get back up to speed and to try and put some separation between him and that chasing GT3 field that now works their way out of the toe and in towards the heel. LMDHs heading to the end of lap number 1, and with Dominic Hoffman leading by a not inconsiderable margin. A nice healthy jump for your race leader in both classes, and it's guaranteed that no real drama at the very front. Across the line, end of lap number 1, no change inside of the top 5 in the LMDHs. No change inside of the top 8 so far in the GT3s. It goes to show that maybe today is going to end up being more about resource management, about fuel tire conservation, and trying to manage the strategy as best that you can. It's a relatively short pit lane, let's not forget. You have to go all the way back to the tail end of the GT3 class to find some fighting. The likes of Dorr and Drago battling it out. Sean Campbell goes backwards though, out of the bus stop chicane. Second bit of drama for the LMDHs on lap number 2. I think everyone else keeps it clean, and now a potential change around as Moreno Sarica, Owen Carroll starting to bottleneck up the likes of Carl Janssen behind, who in that stealth black Fanatec Williams Esports car went to the outside trying to shape up and set up a move on Carroll in that green Apex Racing Academy car. Separation now though up to Delict in the Urano car is 1.7-ish seconds. So some time to get back before the draft will really pull these drivers back into the leading train. They need to avoid battling too much and drawing each other off the back of those 3 cars, 4 cars that might very well be in a position to run away at the front. I tell you what though, now that we're at the end of the opening couple of laps and things relatively settling on down, why don't we try and take a look at what happened to the first LMDH drama through the bus stop chicane, where we rise our way up to right now. High speed, high commitment, and they did try to go 3 wide. Obsidian lost it by themselves, and then Nathan Lewis, big old smack into the wall. Not really sure how that came to be. Take another look. Oh, it's just on the curb by himself, and so smack into the wall, and that is very much a M Hybrid V8 worse for wear. Here's a look on board with Espes in the Obsidian racing machine. You can see it's the entry that got him unsettled, and so while nothing gets tagged in that car, camera loses him behind the crowd because that's not where you're meant to be in terms of track design. But only that incident effectively on the opening lap, so only Nathan Lewis had to take a trip back down towards pit lane. Still half a second at the front of the field, but gap being held relatively honest. Then what happened to Sean Campbell? Just too much commitment. Not sure if there was a part of that was cold tires, but gets quite lucky not to get taken out and not to slide back into the path of oncoming traffic. He was side by side for a moment, and you can see how stiffly sprung these M Hybrid V8s are, and you can see how much of a challenge the curbs might end up being. So as Dominic Hoffman continues to lead, only probably 3 laps away from seeing traffic being a point of contention. I'm sure it's never going to be drama in this M SIM Cup. Something else has happened out on track for Valkyrie's experience car. It's in towards the bus stop once again. It's a curb once again. We're going to lose the car once again. And poor Jonathan Poulet does crunch that car in pretty aggressively, all things considered. Dylan Burse in the Door Esports car gets a bit doored there. Do love the Williams Esports placing livery, but unfortunately maybe a little bit optimistic there. We'll take another look at this one in towards that boot section, and it's maybe a day late and $1 short, but Dylan Burse could have maybe given a bit more space once the nose was shown. Ultimately, it was too little, too late to react to that once the commitment was made to the inside to block by that Door Esports BMW. Speaking of the GT3s, I get the sense this is a fuel-saving game right now, and it's not follow the leader. Well, it is, but you don't want to be the leader. Track conditions pretty toasty as well, 48 degrees Celsius. Maybe not as warm as what we'll see in the iRacing 6 hours of the Glen, where we've seen on occasion the track temperatures reach as high as 60, 65 degrees Celsius. It's a good opportunity, though, for certain teams that expect to be running a BMW in the upcoming iRacing special event, the 3rd of our VCO Grand Slams, to dial in their setup and to go and get some race practice as well. So remember, RaceSpotTV/timing to follow along with everything that's going on. Find your favorite team and driver wherever they may be on track. And just a reminder that we're not too far away from traffic being probably not ever present. It's going to take us until probably 30-ish minutes into the race before we get a bit more constant flow of traffic, but it is this first pass through that is always the scariest. When the cars are the most checked up, there's the most risk for things to go wrong. And so I say that hoping that I haven't just put down a bit of a commentator's curse on things, but Lewis McLeod says there is no such thing as a commentator's curse. Lewis will join us once again for the next round at Spa. But here we go. Traffic, traffic, traffic. It's about to be the story. I wonder how aggressive your leaders are going to be. Urano have been pretty good this season at being able to stay out of dramas, but a bit of a half check up there for them. Followed aggressively by Arturo Melgar this time. Jinking back and forth. There was a swap around there. Melgar got a little bit checked up, Hoffman took advantage. Other way around, excuse me. And now trying to go to the outside the long way around. Arnage has to duck and give space. But split-second decisions here. Not just the margins between positions, the margins between survival. Don't go 3 wide into the penultimate corner, boys. I think they thought better of that one a little bit further back, although Arnage very wide off the road. Oh, nervy moments, both on pit lane for the spotters watching, and I'm sure for the drivers behind the wheel as well, just trying to ensure that they stay out of trouble. Shivy Szabo and Reminick for Apex Racing Academy in the race cars red entries, battling for what is 11th position. Traffic has checked them up though, that is without a shadow of a doubt. It split them up slightly in GT3, expect that to come down once again. I mean, it looks like they're all trying to get to upstate New York for a bit of a summer getaway. Front 2 drivers plotting their getaway from those behind. Melgar trying to chink down low and clear himself of the rest of the field and put some separation between themselves and the other Urano cars that are having to contend with almost 3 abreast. Williams Esports BenQ getting very checked up out of the tow. Apex Racing and McEwen up the inside and now trying to get the position away. Finally they'll settle into line, but Marla and Matt Farrow with an aggressive send down low forced Owen Carroll to give up a spot there. Oh, I don't even know where we should be looking at this point. It's all over the place. Alessandro Bico says, I want none of this, takes it off track to just get some breathing room. 3 wide once again as we come across towards the line. And there was almost contact there between between Shivy Szabo in the second Apex Racing Academy car and Jonas Wallmeyer in that Urano Esports Data Group car. Chinking past the traffic they will go, slithering up through the 100 feet of elevation climb that the S's represent. Oh, we've gotten through safely, it would seem. For a second there, Shivy Szabo did think about it. Was just not close enough. On board with the Movado entry, down 5 positions from where they started, but this race has been so hectic that without damage on the car, I think all things considered, it will be a net win. Trying to jink back to the inside though. Feisty stuff here down outside of the top 10 positions. What have the LMDH cars though done to the GT3s? Not much, it turns out, in terms of separating them out. In terms of chopping and changing, well, that maybe is a little bit more pointed. Left side of the screen, look at the Luke McEwen powered Apex Racing car. That is up 3 positions so far into the top 4. We're trying to get onto the podium next. McEwen paired up with Elvis Rankin. I did hear that Luke McEwen was down at the Apex Racing Team facility in Corby this past week. So the young Elvis Rankin and Luke McEwen spending some time together, getting ready for this week. And we talk so often about how the ability to be in person is a conduit to better collaboration at the end of the day. As someone that now works a fully remote gig, I can very much attest to that. It's great having a team that you can chat with at any time of the day that is remote, but it's always nice to spool up collaboration in person on occasion. So good to see that even those that aren't living in the Apex Racing Team facility are getting those opportunities to head on over and learn from what is a increasingly growing program. Got 3 of their entries in GT3. We've got 2 Apex Racing Academy entries in the LMDH class, so They are mixed up across the board. With less than 15 minutes complete, settles into the rhythm once again. And while Arturo Melgar just start to try and pull a gap over our pole position winner, Urano Esports and Dominic Hoffman, let's not forget that point situation looks great if you are a Urano Esports driver. Not necessarily expecting Melgar to push the tempo to rock the boat of the championship too hard. Do love the look of that brand new Drago sim racing car though. It's got an iLiveries logo on the side of it. That's why it looks so good. I should have known. What other wonderful liveries do we have out there on display? Well, Urano's is right behind. It's red and black, so they know how I feel about that. I was told that they have tried to make it a bit easier for silly commentators like myself to pick the cars apart. So I'm taking a close look at this Urano Esports entry, and we'll see if we can tell any differences between the others. That's the 92 Huawei car. I see white end plates on that. Now, as the top car comes through, that's got gold end plates. I mean, there's a difference. There's a difference, but I'm not saying that's the most obvious of differences. I'm not saying I was sold a bill of goods. Let's check out this final Urano Esports entry. This is the Data Group car down in the 9th position with Wallmeyer behind the wheel. So Hoffman, Delict, and then Wallmeyer, the three drivers. That's got the black end plates. So, I mean, if you've got a great sight line to the end plates of these M Hybrid V8s, you can tell your Urano cars apart. I guess if you can see the wing mirrors as well, now that we super zoom in, I'm really digging into poor Urano. I'm not getting on their Christmas list anytime soon. But they're no Williams Esports. There's the Chill Blast car. The only complaint that I have is it's now quite similar to the Hoistingfeld front end. There's the Fanatec liveried Williams Esports car. Can't miss it for the world. Although, I think I might have to eat some... No, this is the Marla car, which is now a split between the traditional Marla livery and the Williams livery. Love it. Nice little interesting way of putting to bed any doubts about which part of the love triangle that the Marla car is from today. Let's not forget that Marla, great partners not just of Williams Esports, but also of BS competition, and so we've seen on occasion Marla racing team win championships, but under the BS competition banner. In the M SIM Cup, we do tend to see it more represented by our great friends over at Williams Esports. I will say, this is a livery that at least we've gotten to see a little bit more of today. Distinct GG have survived a lap or two longer. Traditionally see them in some American Open wheels, at least in the form of Kevin Birrell, but the man that now lives over in Asia, curious what time of day it will be for him, but maybe not too ridiculous, all things considered. One new livery for us to take a look at as well is the DBM racing car. First time we get a look at it. Let us know what you think. What's the best looking LMDH car that we have in the field, and why is it the Boostin VDS by Undercut factory liveried BMW car? I'm just making sure the head honchos at BMW Motorsport are happy. It is a great livery at the end of the day. But you'd be hard-pressed to just sway me any way other than BS Turner, and everybody does know this. So there's my vote for livery of the day. What do you guys think in terms of some top dollar efforts in this M Hybrid V8? No longer going to be the sole LMDH GTP car that we have here on iRacing either, so moving forward into the next week, it's going to have a companion in this GTP class, and so going to be looking forward to seeing how BMW stacks up in two multi-class classes heading into that iRacing Watkins Glen 6 hours. Danny Abrams says, it's a shame that the DBM car is going too fast for us to see the spec map on display. I don't think we are too fast to see, though, that we are into the weeds of traffic once again. And Arturo Melgar, who took the lead last time by through traffic, has already built up a extra 4/10 buffer at this point. Do expect the opportunities to present themselves to make moves here in traffic. The question is going to be, now that we're maybe a little bit more spread out in the GT3 class, or rather in the LMDH class, as we go through the still packed up GT3s, how is that going to all fare out? There was definitely 3 wide for Valtteri Alander in that BS Turner machine as they headed off in towards the toe. Without a shadow of a doubt, Hoffman jigs to the inside of that place heat liveried Williams Esports BMW GT3 machine. 3 wide off the corner behind again. That was Williams Esports Chill Blast and Moreno Sorica, I do believe. Really trying to make sure they don't lose track of the top 4 as they head to the line once more. 3 wide again, but only for a moment. It's a swap between teammates. Janssen in front of Sorica, Fanatec in front of Chill Blast. Once again up through the S's. Oh, I love this camera shot that you get. And those spectators must have one of the best views that you can get here at Watkins Glen International, of the car snaking their way up through the S's complex. SimRC take avoiding action through the chicane, though. They did not look comfortable, that's for sure. No one's looking comfortable through traffic, I think. Comfort's just a state of mind, surely. Surely we're gonna get through this second cycle through without too much major drama. Your leader's about to commingle once again, with Melgar holding the gap to Hoffman at about 7/10, so it has closed a couple of car lengths through the traffic. Although, with Melgar finally able to dispatch of the final car as a corner before Hoffman was able to do so. The gap rises back up to 1.2 seconds again. Alander gets the rear end stepping out on him as he tries to spool up the hybrid and drive himself clear of GT3s. Meanwhile, around the outside of the penultimate corner for the pair of Williams Esports cars, Matt Farrow dropping off relative to his 2 teammates. Let's keep an eye out on him. And as he heads off into turn 1, now that's going to fare on out. Talked about some great looking LMDH liveries. Let's talk about some great looking GT3 liveries, why don't we? And what is now a controversial take that I have had here on RaceSpotTV. The Apex Racing Team liveries, until they embrace the trend of commentators need more color, can it be described as only what the kids would call as mid. Still working through the second cycle through of traffic, though, in this BMW M SIM Cup. Remember, 2 classes of competition. LMDH is represented by the BMW M Hybrid V8, and GT3s by the M4 GT3. Luke McEwen tries to gain another spot, and this time a spot inside of the top 3, but Gianni Vecchio doesn't allow the door to remain open for too long. This, of course, a bit of separation now between them and Daniel Pastor in the ever hard-charging Williams Esports Razor entry. Then Alessandro Bico behind. So in this 2-hour sprint, teams are required to use 2 drivers. That's pretty simple in this GT3 class, where the fuel tank goes for about an hour. Everyone knows what's going to happen when you're going to do the driver change. In the LMDH class, it's a little bit more intriguing, though, and that's because that we have this extra complication that is a 40-minute stint time. Still breaks up relatively simply into when we think the drivers will head off down to pit lane, but one driver will do 40 minutes out on track, and that other driver is going to end up doing closer to an hour and 20 minutes on track. And so how you split that up, when you choose to swap your driver around, these are all talking points that do end up being relatively important. Still not halfway through the first hour though, and so for the GT3 drivers, might still be the case of setting up this next phase of the race, doing some fuel saving as mentioned before. Race leader though, don't think he's too concerned about any sort of fuel saving. Across the line, end of lap number 16. So maybe 10, 12 minutes away from a pit stop window. Cycle back earlier in the race and check out what can sometimes happen in traffic. And as the DBM car makes its way into top split, it almost made its way through the wrong layout of Watkins Glen. Just look from up above at the margins that you have. High speed going around the outside with GT3 cars slightly washing up. And just the slightest bit of contact enough for Sam Sutton to go around. Speaking of going around, that's Moreno Sorica in the Williams Esports Chill Blast number 3. It's the bus stop chicane that once again has reared its head. Not sure necessarily if this was self-inflicted or if Moreno Sorica got a helping hand. Replay tells us self-inflicted. Curbs play a big part of it. Does he keep it out of the wall? He keeps it away from his teammates, that's for sure. I think Moreno Sorica will take a round of applause for a great save. Watch on board. That first curb, it's so treacherous, so important to hit it with such great accuracy, and when you get it wrong at speed, boy, does it go wrong quickly. And so now with Sorica dropping by, starting to look like potentially a top 2 breakaway. Do wonder though for Valtteri Alander if, given that Pedro Sanchez Albert has maybe been the quicker driver of the two over the course of the season, if Alander can keep close enough to Hoffman to Melgar, it's an interesting place for the second drivers to deal with. Dominic Hoffman going to be paired up with Danny Lorenzo, very quick driver of his own volition, let's not forget. In the 696 Drago racing car, it's going to be Arturo Melgar and then Przemysław Lemonek, formerly of RHG Esports, and so that's going to be an interesting one. Oh my days! Your eyes do not deceive you. Half of the Williams Esports Chill Blast car has gone missing. How did this one happen? They say there are no slow corners at Watkins Glen. Does that mean there are no slow incidents? Oh, please don't tell me this is deja vu. Oh, we lost it before he even entered the corner, and I'm very glad that we didn't get to see most of that car crashing, because hellacious probably does not go to describe that well enough. Just look at it bounce back. The engine explodes. And poor Moreno Sorica. Day done. Becomes our 5th retiree of the day. Joins Obsidian and BS Plus in the LMDH class as being retired. It's going to be Valkyrie and then Door. Door's number 21, driven by Dylan Burse, that have retired in the GT3s. We check back in with said GT3s, by the way, and find that not much has changed, all things considered. It's still Sven Haase from Chris Lullum, from Johnny Vecchio. We jump on board with Daniel Pastor in that number 5 machine. A number 1 machine, excuse me. Right around for a lap or so with this bright green front end, down the hill through turn 1, bottom part of the track effectively, as you begin this 100-foot climb up through the S's. I've seen 2 and 3 wide through here. Doesn't tend to work out, unfortunately. Single file, a lot calmer, a lot more restrained. It's here, though, in towards that bus stop chicane that maybe we're going to see a challenge for the lead, because Sven Haase had to defend. Chris Lullum, in the end, had to give up any chance of making his way on forward. But as we reach the halfway point, have Redline hit their fuel number? It's not something that we're unfamiliar with. Redline doing their fuel saving in the first couple of moments of the race and then being able to hit a number. Very curious to see what's going to go on. Sean Campbell maybe starts the pit cycle. I'm not sure how long that's going to last for. Change for the lead as once again through traffic. This time it's Hoffman and Urano that take advantage. And speaking of advantage, just as they swap around for the LMDH lead, new GT3 leader, it's Chris Lullum and Redline that take the point. Side by side for third position. Luke McEwen up the inside of Gianni Vecchio through the final corner. Almost leaning on one another door to door. McEwen has to give the ghost up through the final corner, but tries to set things up. It's picked up once again, things it would seem. Drago Racing lead once again because Hoffman has dropped back to second. Valtteri Alander's in the mix as well. It's now 3 cars at the front of that LMDH Not going to be long before the GT3 and the LMDH leaders overlap once again. But are they going to be able to navigate this one safely? Side by side for the lead. It's Hoffman the long way around, and contact! Hoffman takes the shortcut and loses the front end of the car. One of our championship leaders, 2 of our championship leaders getting tangled up. Hoffman back off to pit lane. And I believe it would have been Delict in the second Urano car that got involved as well. Jimmy Antunes in the Arnage competition car also comes off badly. Williams Esports Marla get tangled up in the aftermath. A championship defining moment. So a couple of LMDHs worse for the wear today. The bus stop claims yet another victim. What happened this time? Sven Haase now tangled up in his own bit of drama through the the final couple of corners. Here's the look from above. Hoffman got tangled up by Antunes in the Apex Racing car, who had absolutely nowhere to go. Just one more look from this first vantage point. Hoffman, I'm pretty sure, had lost all steering at that point. Antunes gets collected. There's the second bit of drama that I was mentioning. And so here we go. We'll get a look on board with Antunes, and then Hoffman spat back out onto track. I don't know how that did not go worse for all parties involved. Eventually, Delict has had to head off back down to pit lane. But race control, because yes, we do have race control, has plenty to look on through. See if we can figure out what happened as well to Matt Farrow in that sequence. This down just after, oh, he's got damage already as a result of this. You can see the broken car. He gets hit from behind. It's such a small bit of contact as well, but apparently enough. So 2 Urano cars tangled up. What happened to Sven Haase though? Next lap by. It's that contact with BS Turner. We're about to find out. So as BS Turner goes the long way around. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Sven Haase wants to try and track his GT3 car out. If you're Valtteri Alander, you want to try and carry as much speed through the corner as possible. I expected plenty of carnage and drama. Not sure I thought we were going to see that. So resulting chaos has seen, starting in GT3, a bit of an update. It's Redline 1 and 2, Apex 3rd, Williams 4th and 5th, and then the BMW Privateers, currently driven by Florian Lebigre, in 6th position. Leandro Andretti for Team PTZ, running back in 7th. Cycling over to the LMDHs, though, it is still Arturo Melgar that leads, but now not with Urano behind. It's BS Turner, it's Williams Esports Fanatec, it's Apex Racing Academy, and then it's Urano Esports Data Group that complete the top 5 in class. So let's try and take one more look, with things having very much now calmed down out here on track. Yes, the GT3s are still in a train, but in LMDHs, not much going on. You've got Owen Carroll, got Carl Janssen. Here's that train of GT3s mentioned. Not much still splitting everyone in class. Quite curious as to the entire sequence that developed between Urano and Drago. Not saying anyone is to blame here. Just saying I want to try and figure out, in this side-by-side contact, is there responsibility? How does race control, how will race control likely view this? I mean, Hoffman's got to turn in eventually. You can see the front end goes, and he's a passenger in the grass. Oh, and does get hit for a second time as well. Slow things down. And this is a slightly better angle. There's air, but no clue. Absolutely no clue. The benefit of sim racing, of course, is that our stewards get infinite camera angles, can really do whatever they want to try and ascertain incident responsibility, but there's a reason why oftentimes we say we're glad not to be in race control. Side by side for second as Redline and Apex try and sort things out. Vecchio and McEwen. McEwen, former Redline driver, don't forget. 2.6 seconds, the separation now up to Chris Lullum, who, of course, with Diogo Pinto, championship leaders, see exactly what they want. Daniel Pastor turfed off the road in the Williams Esports Razor entry. Take your eyes off this race for a second. Blink. And there's another car involved in something else. Straight away, let's see what happened here. It's PGZ and Andretti that look down low. And it's left front to right rear. It's definite contact, and for Daniel Pastor, the pain did not end there, I can tell you. What happened after that? Just go straight. Maybe there was too much damage already. He heads off back down towards the pit lane. It's going to be a climb up through the S's and a side-by-side climb up through the S's. Redline versus Apex. Two juggernauts in the sim racing world. It's Vecchio that's really trying to lean on Luke McEwen. Leans on him into the grass. There are limits, and maybe Gianni Vecchio stepped over them there. That's inevitable. Vecchio somehow does not take anyone else out as a result of that one. McEwen is going to hold on to a spot inside of the top 5. Vecchio takes himself out as a result of that. Be curious to see from up above what that looked like, but squeezing does have a limit. It's left a little bit of a battle now to be decided between Cody Deeth in the Williams Esports Hoisting Belt livery and then Arnage Competition, but Deeth able to grab another spot and work his way forward, especially given that traffic has started to close its way on forward. Here's the look from up above, though. McEwen's there. McEwen's there. McEwen's still there. I mean, he's got 3/4 of his car in the grass at one point. He doesn't want to give the corner up. At that point, maybe you can say McEwen is the instigator of the resulting contact, but were they sucked into one another? Was Gianni Vecchio just not taking no for an answer? End result is now it's not a red line 1-2, it's red line and Williams Esports Ben Q 1 and 2. Florian Lebigra in the privateer entry is up to 3rd position, sharing that car with Jesse Jones. But with GT3 cars still a while away from coming down onto pit lane, LMDH is 40 minutes into the race and down onto the box. And it's going to be a swarm of cars that finds their way on in. Only Movano seem to be able to go that one extra lap in their number 72. So there come the drivers hitting their marks. Are we going to see any sort of driver changes here? Arturo Melgar is going to jump out, so I would guess that is going to be Lemonek jumping in, but outside of that, Kenneth Gulbranson into the Williams Esports Fanatec car, so Carl Jansen out there. Don't think we're seeing any driver changes. They all go up on the jacks though. With these warm track conditions, I would suspect that we're going to be taking tires, and 4 tires in all stops. Look at the race off of pit lane though. It's going to be neck and neck between BS Turner and the Drago Racing cars. Valtteri Alander stays in, 3 seconds shorter in the pit lane. It's a warm driver against someone that needs to find the rhythm of the track. Alander's going to have to concede, at least for the time being. But this is where the decision not to change, maybe, will come into play. Slightly further back behind them. I think that was Joop de Ligt having an issue down the run into the bus stop chicane. Not the first time that we've seen that. And so as Movano, as Race Clutch, the 2 cars that are extended this stint by 1 extra lap, head down to pit lane, it is going to mean that it is Drago Racing back into traffic, but also back into your race lead. What happened to Urano and de Ligt? Well, I think we've seen something similar before. Kenneth Gulbranson in the Williams Esports Fanatec car. Bit of a jink up there high. And de Ligt could do not much about that. Look from up above. These helicopter shots always give us a great perspective. It's a weird jink to the left. I'm not sure if that's a hardware failure or if that's some sort of contact that has, hooked them together there. But I don't think that was natural by Gulbranson. I definitely don't think that was any sort of responsibility. Very, very weird incident. So Drago, BS Turner, Apex Racing Academy, 1, 2, and 3. And now in GT3, it's Team Redline, BMW M SIM Cup, and Team PGZ. Alessandro Bico has dropped back to link up with Cody Deeth in the Williams Esports Hoisingveld car. That may just be a sign of fuel mileage being a topic to focus on for the Williams Esports camp heading into this next stage of pit lane. That will be when the GT3s come in, probably in about 15 to 17 minutes time. The later you come in, the less fuel you need to put into the car, but the potential for undercuts is there if you get stuck in traffic. So many different points of consideration that go into determining what strategy you want to play. George Simmons over at the Apex Racing team has shown me on occasion some of the things that they use to try and figure stuff like this out. It's always an interesting discussion of engineering and engineering principles, even if we're not always true to real life in, setup adjustments and the setups that we run. It's the engineering principles that I think sometimes can be so prevalent. Case in point, George Simmons. Not just with Apex Racing Team, but of course has worked mission control for the McLaren Formula 1 team, as well as McLaren F1 Esports. So showing that even if it's not one-to-one, again, it's just the application of processes and whatnot, and finding intuitive and novel ways of doing things. I think that's always what's interesting to me. Going back to American Open Wheel Racing, one of my teammates who works inside of the paddock of some of the series here in the US shared some of the setups that we used to run with real-world engineers, and it was interesting to see the reactions that they had. We've shared some of the more recent setups that we run in some of the cars with the work that iRacing have done, and they are nothing but impressed at how close it has really now become. That was close to more disaster. Red line dropped to 6, although that's Tom Burns in the worst, quote-unquote, qualified of the red line cars. Started, down in the 9th position, just inside of the top 10. Leandro Andretti in front of Luca Kita, Luke McEwen, and then Tom Burns. It's not just these drivers that are battling, though. I'm trying to keep an eye on the fact that Sean Campbell's back up the inside of Danny Chivichabo. Chivichabo trying to persist his point-scoring record of being in the top 10 of every single race this season. He's got some stiff competition, though. Got the Movano sim racing car as well, that not going to get past Sean Campbell, as Chivichabo is going to be able to do so, but closing up behind as well. Got some lap traffic to just keep an eye out. Didn't realize that it was now just Movano, by the way, and not SRC Movano. Once again, Tom Burns drops back, this time behind Alessandro Bico and Cody Deeth in the Williams Esports pair of cars. If you're curious about anything from race control, have not seen any penalties. There have been a couple of warnings / no further actions that have come on down, but live race control that gives penalties that get applied as post-race penalties. Fortunately quiet. You know what's gotten very ominously dark, though? The sky. Not because track temperatures have dipped by any means, just because there's a big cloud that's covered up the track, and now we are seeing the drivers very much have to navigate the way with some of those headlights. Oh my days! Oh my goodness me! Our race leader in the LMDH gets tangled up with traffic, and who else gets mixed up as a result of that one? We'll have to go to the replay to find out. BS Turner now leads. Williams Esports Fanatec for a moment had second. Kenneth Gulbranson does a good job to hold on to third. Owen Carroll takes advantage to grab second. But that's a very damaged VG Racing Esports car. Rasmus Christensen behind the wheel there. The S's always a place that strike nerves into commentators, into drivers. And for Lemonek, after getting into that car, Arturo Melgar will watch as his teammate returns to pit lane. Here we go with a replay. So, is this just miscommunication, misjudgment, as the LMDH car tries to find a way through that I don't think was ever really there? We got through that without anyone else hitting the two cars that did get involved. I think we're going to have to try and take a look on board with Rasmus Christensen and maybe the Door Esports car. I'm really not sure what to make of this. So on board with VG Racing, I tell you what. So you'll see that the GT3 cars are trying to leave a lane for the race leader to take. Not all of them leave the lane early, and the late reaction by some, I think, tricked Lemonek into thinking he had to go the long way around. And that's what can happen in Watkins Glen with traffic miscommunication. Just keep watching, just keep watching. I'm pretty sure we got through that without anyone else making contact. Quick look with the Williams Esports Fanatec. Okay, no, I lied. That was definitely contact. Bing bang bosh. But as we rejoin live pictures, Kenneth Gulbranson has been smiled on by the iRacing gods. Is still up there in second. Remarkable. It's one of those races, isn't it? Gone from not having much for race control to take a look at to probably quite a lot for race control to take a look at. Two leaders, though, not even halfway through, and are building up assertive leads here. Here's Chris Lullum. I just want to reiterate how this is a lead born of speed and pace, not of incidents. Yes, a couple of drivers have been tangled up in things, but they pulled away on merit in my mind. Yes, again, Sven Haase had his moment of drama, but only after Redline had already taken the lead. It could be a second consecutive victory for Team Redline. More pertinently, it would be a fourth consecutive victory as a team for Redline. A mark that I think eclipses what we saw from the Apex Racing team at the end of 2022 when Kevin Ellis Jr. went on his remarkable run as the Apex Racing team locked themselves in, to be fair, to BMW Sim Live. Only 3.5 seconds by contrast for Valtteri Alander and BS Turner. But I get the sense. No damage on their car, and one of the quickest drivers in a GTP car left to do their mandatory stint. I'd be pretty confident if I was at Zebra Control today. Dakota DiCienzo jumps into the iRacing Esports Network to ask, does pineapple go on pizza? Now, it's one of those races where I think we're allowed to have this discussion. Before I put my foot in my mouth and remove myself from any further consideration of broadcasts on this iRacing platform, what do you, the viewers, think of pineapple on pizza? I will maybe phrase the question slightly differently. Regardless of everyone's thoughts on pineapple on pizza, what is your opinion on the most egregious topping on a pizza? What do you think should not be allowed? That's the question I will ask you all before we talk about this very controversial topic of pineapple on pizza. Now, it's not pizza related, but for those that have been to Asia or have grown up in Asia and understand what a prata is, from Southeast Asia in particular, as Andaruti and Team PGZ's 1:14 goes up to second in front of Florian Lebigra. Prata is just like, it's kind of like a naan, but it's slightly different. It's a pseudo naan. See what I did there? Pseudo noun, pseudo naan. I'm proud of myself. Okay. Oh, that was a lunge from Tom Burns. Checked up the pack, that's for sure. Especially given that there's a GTP coming on through. Now, everyone loves a bit of Indian food, at least I think that's fairly universal. There are a few things that I don't think people would associate as being put on a prata. Ice cream prata is quite a delicacy. I will highly recommend it. And so I don't know if I'd put ice cream on pizza, but an ice cream pizza sounds quite interesting, just like an ice cream cake is usually quite good. Tom Burns is trying to have his cake, but can't eat it as well. As much as he's trying to go forward, he loses out again to Alessandro Bico, and done all the hard work to get past the Williams Esports duo, and now has to do it once again. Here we go into the bus stop with Bico looking forward. Not looking forward to a position, though. This is the first time that I've actually had a look at the Hoising Veld liveried Williams Esports car, and while on the grid it seemed a bit more white on the front end, credit where credit's due, every single sponsor gets a different color. Hoisting felt is silver, and they've made it as easy for the commentator as you can make it. Now, we've already lost the Razor and the Chill Blast entries, unfortunately, so we are somewhat short on Williams Esports numbers, but just a reminder of how useful the colors can be for silly commentators who often don't know what they're talking about. I can tell you that's the playseat car, because that's got orange on the front. Nice and easy. Alessandro Bico now finally loses out to Tom Burns, though. Up in towards that penultimate corner, Bico will give up that spot. Dominic Hoffman in that number 90 car. We saw what happened to him earlier. Danny Lorenzo tried to bring that car back out onto track to recover whatever points that they could. Too much damage, unfortunately. Not going to see them back out on track, unfortunately. It's just the 91 Urano Esports entry that's left, the sole representative of the team that's dominated the LMDH class so far. So an hour and 5 minutes left. When are your GT3 pit stops going to get underway? Fuel tank can go about 60-ish minutes, but is pushing it. Gianni Vecchio's recovery, by the way, going quite well. He's up into 9th. Let's not forget that he was very much, I think, in a spot where we weren't necessarily sure if he was going to be able to fight his way on back. I will put it was a spot he placed himself in of his own free will. Here's just a reminder of where Vecchio dropped down and what he's had to fight back from. I'd argue the actual contact was not necessarily his fault. There was definitely a bit of a bash into the wall, but Vecchio could have been a little bit more generous with the room that was left on that main straightaway. So 32 laps going to be complete for the GT3 machines this time by. What are track temperatures looking like? Seeing them bounce between 42, 46 degrees. We're back down to 43 degrees Celsius. Jumping up to 44 just as we check on in with it. Given that you can change tires while you do fuel in these cars now, it does tend to mean that we don't have the same fun that we did last year with differences in how many tires teams are taking, but curious to see what differences we do see in the strategy. I see a bit of a bump draft here from Cody Deeth, trying to work his Williams Esports teammate a little bit closer up the road. That margin, about half a second, if you want a visual representation of what half a second looks like on track. Sean Campbell back down on pit lane, by the way, for the race clutch number 22 in the LMDH class. For the race clutch contingent, wondering where their driver is. Marius Valiokis is going to take over. Side by side now, as I think Cody Deeth has realized he might be the faster Williams Esports driver at this stint, and so slides forward. He's got to now worry, though, that Gianni Vecchio is going to want to immediately get through and doesn't waste any time. Vecchio up to 8th. Williams Esports Playseat have already made their driver change in GT3. Jersey Glack, the young driver, gets out. TJ McLean jumps in. And so the mark, I think, left that 64 minutes is possible in terms of fuel saving. A bit of a separation that's formed between 3rd and 4th positions here. We've got Urano and PGZ fighting for 2nd. Florian Labiga in that privateer entry. More concerned that McEwen and Tom Burns are going to freight train him in towards that bus stop chicane, and Lebigra, former R8G driver, just more concerned about getting into this pit stop window in a safe fashion. Already have had a penalty that's going to have major implication, not just on points paying positions, but on prize money as well. Team PGZ in the 114. 20-second penalty for avoidable contact, I've been told. And that was, of course, with that number 1 Williams Esports Razor car of Daniel Pastor. Probably not the first. Probably not the last, I should say, that we're going to see. Race leader once again through traffic. And with your LMDH leader now only 2 seconds clear of Kenneth Gulbrandsen. Valtteri Alander maybe being a little bit more tentative through traffic at the expense of time, but at the benefit of a clean car. And the hard charge from Chris Lullum sees him the first to pit, but he pulls in a handful more with him. Who is going to extend one extra lap in the GT3? Williams Esports hoisting Vel, that's who. Find out if anyone else is going to try and do something similar. I think Kenneth Gulbrandsen got mixed up in something because puff of smoke out of the final corner, and the Williams Esports Fanatec car down to 6th position. Look away and things will change. And speaking of change, it's the change in pit lane that I think now will be most intriguing. The GT3 cars have found their stalls, and so it's the likes of Diogo Pinto in, Ollie Steinbratton in, Jesse Jones, Elvis Rankin, George Garcia, Josh Thompson, Konstantin Scharf, Michael Yanni, Adam Isaacson, and then Patrick Hinston. Those are just a handful of the names that are jumping into the car in this pit stop cycle. Diogo Pinto already off and away, rolls in the lead. Points leaders, race leaders, and now Team Redline in a comfortable spot with 59 minutes still left to run. The misfortune for Kenneth Gulbrandsen does mean that Owen Carroll promoted to 2nd. Urano Esports in the 91 promoted to 3rd. There's Movano in 4th, trying to chase them down. Not too separated from 2nd Apex Racing Academy car. Gulbrandsen's not far off the back of them too. Get back to our pineapple on pizza discussion, because I think we finally have enough different things going on in suggestions going on in chat. A couple of people saying that it works on pizza. Someone suggests peanut butter pizza. No, please no. Pineapple is better than broccoli on a pizza. Actually, broccoli is not the worst thing on pizza if you pair it appropriately. That is not the easiest thing in the world either, though. Cody Deek goes for an extra lap beyond what the rest of the field has done in the GT3. 6 more cars, have come down to pit lane this time by. And as Diogo Pinto wanders his way off towards the final couple of corners, going to be curious to see where he fares out in relation to some of those trying a bit of an overcut, and if it is going to work out for them. Diogo Pinto, well and truly clear into your race lead. What about these machines? The likes of Grabowski, 2 of the BS Turner cars that work their way on through. Team PGZ will have flown on past. Let's not forget they do have a 20-second penalty that will be applied at the end of the race, but it's Elvis Rankin that effectively inherits what will be net 2nd. Grabowski feeds out into net 7th. Just waiting to see where Cody Deeth, of course, cycles out in this equation. Oh my day, someone has just suggested black pudding and sausage on pizza. Hopefully to be banned from suggesting pizza considerations ever again. That is definitely one of the combinations of all time. Meanwhile, one of the big dramas in this pit stop cycle is what happened with Williams Esports Fanatec and getting themselves turned by their own team car. Slight misjudgment through the traffic as to where the GT3 cars were going to go. And so as Kenneth Gulbranson tried to pick his way past Florian Labigra, Alessandro Bico had nowhere to go and tagged his teammate, who almost had to come down onto pit lane. Yeah, the iRacing Esports Network quite rightly digging into anybody who would have such a heinous pizza suggestion as what we've seen out of Kato Fury. But let's see if we're going to see some Fury out of Matthias Nojad in the Williams Esports Hoisting Velt car. Now, remember, this is a car that could be fighting for second. Where is Elvis Rankin in consideration? Just out of reach. So it is going to be net second for Hoisting Velt with a 20-second penalty for Team PGZ. There's money on the line here. If you're just joining us, our winners in each class split $1,000, $500 to second step on the podium, $250 to third step to the third step. So there's some cash incentive to go for some of the moves that we may see. Speaking of moves, potentially could see traffic play a part. Urano, Movano, and Apex Racing Team diving past the Williams Esports Hoisting Velt car, who just about survived. Don't think BS Turner were as fortunate, unfortunately. And so as they went side by side with SimRC, some air between the two of them, and for a multiple-time race winner last year in the BMW Sim GT Cup, Rainer Talvar in that BMW for BS Turner finds himself around and finds himself with a slow, painful slide into the wall. Another incident where we were fortunate the rejoin did not cause more drama. As come to the end of yet another lap 38 for the GT3 drivers. We've got some warnings that have come down for some of the incidents that we've seen. And I believe that's for what happened between Johnny Vecchio and Luke McEwen. So warning to the both of them. I do not believe that Race Control is going to give a penalty. Oh, of note, Drago Racing do have a 20-second penalty, but given that they have had an incident, it's somewhat a moot point. It was for their contact with the Urano Esports number 90 machine. But again, just a reminder, it's an official iRacing race. Anyone can join. Race control applied only in this top split of competition. So, black pudding and sausage on pizza. That might be the most heinous pizza topping combination that I've heard. I'm sure there are some people that can come up with some more interesting suggestions. Peanut butter and banana pizza. Now I'm quite curious, since someone suggested peanut butter, what that would actually taste like. It's a very American thing, with, you know, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Can we make a pizza version of that? And then does that mean that we'll have a pizza, peanut butter and jelly pizza song? It's peanut butter jelly time. It's peanut butter pizza time. I don't know. I really should make sure that I trademark some of these ideas before I say them, because peanut butter pizza time could be the next hit song of the TikTok generation. Oh, Vegemite on pizza. Oh, I'm like actually nauseous at the thought of that. Although Vegemite it's not bad. if you've got the taste for Vegemite, a Vegemite pizza maybe could actually be quite interesting. I don't mind Vegemite, but I don't know if I would like it on a pizza. And now someone's taken that and said Marmite pizza. Marmite or Vegemite, which one's worse? These are the things that we discuss during the BMW M SIM Cup. Especially when there's not much going on outside of Boost and VDS getting up in front of Sean Campbell and Marius Valiokis in the race clutch. Black number 22. Marmite is stronger. I think this is the thing. So if you like the taste of Marmite, you probably prefer Marmite over Vegemite. But, you know, these are, we need a deep dive, a journalistic deep dive into which one works better. Can you imagine Gordon Ramsay? Gordon Ramsay being presented with a Vegemite and a Marmite pizza, and we have to get him to decide which one is the less egregious one. I also do agree, pepperoni and pineapple is better than ham and pineapple on a pizza. Especially since there's nothing Hawaiian about ham and pineapple at the end of the day. I'm curious again about this Movano livery. It's usually SRC Movano. Was this a typo? What was this? Is this a slight change in what we should expect heading off into the next couple of races that we expect this car to be competed at a top level with? Watkins Glen 6 hours on iRacing, don't forget, just 2 weeks away. See if we can send a message to someone. That's the thing about sim racing. There's no silly season. It's always silly season. There's always someone moving team. There's always a team that's changing. There's always new teams. Drago Sim Racing, case in point. We've got Drago. We've got Grid and Go, relatively new. First saw them last time in the BMW M SIM Cup. First time we've seen them on RaceSpotTV. Marcelo Panion jumps in to say it's the correct paint. Is the correct team name, I think, is the more pertinent question. Movano, one of those teams that, no matter what prototype, going even back to the open top HPD days, Movano were a strong prototype runner. And so carried that forward across the different eras that we've had. Seen them branch out into some GT3 classes as well. They were competing under the CrowdStrike Racing label, not in a BMW, so we won't discuss that too much, but in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. Good to see the partnership between CrowdStrike, such a long-time friend of motorsports, jumping into sim racing world and into the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. So 3 relatively strong teams, you'd have to say. Apex, Redline, Urano, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Not really closing on team the Williams Esports Hoisingveld entry. It is kind of weird to see Williams Esports Hoisingveld when I want to say it's Team Hoisingveld when I see the Hoisingveld name on a car. It is Williams Esports Hoisingveld, not Team Hoisingveld. That is it's a separate, distinct team that is very capable of fighting at the top of iRacing special events. Don't forget that it's not a 3-car fight. It's technically a 4-car fight. Ole Steinbraden says, don't forget about me. Up the inside of Konstantin Scharf. iRacing Esports Network saying that Gordon Ramsay's already tried to inflict damage on those that have suggested some of what we've seen in our pizza discussion so far. Someone says, and I quote, they're both disgusting, Gordon Ramsay, probably. That with a
few more words that are not broadcastable, at least here. Fox is a lot better with their application of the beep than we are. The contrast, though, it's always interesting. Gordon Ramsay on Kitchen Nightmares US versus Gordon Ramsay on Kitchen Nightmares UK, for those that have actually watched these shows. Always interesting to see the contrast. One of them is a lot more reality TV, humdrummed up for excitement. The other one has Gordon Ramsay being somewhat of a human being. Let's not forget that with GT3 pit stops done and dusted, it does not mean that we do not expect the LMDHs to be done with their strategy. Still one more stop for them. Only about 5 minutes away. Maybe a little bit less than that, to be honest. What was I'm trying to remember what was the latest that we saw someone come in that first stint of the race, and I'm somewhat blanking, unfortunately. Not uncommon for myself to not know what I'm talking about. That's status quo most of the time. Ivano, as well as Urano, through the traffic in their fight for third. This might come down to strategy because these cars separated by a lap from each other. Curious how that's going to play. Late move to the inside there by Nicholas Bowe, but seen coming by the BS competition car. Enough room was left. Oh, was that a puff of smoke? Was that our race? Another race leader bites the dust. This time it's BS Turner. Valtteri Alander heads off to pit lane. And Pedro Sanchez Albert doesn't even get the chance to show us what he can do at Watkins Glen. It means Owen Carroll and the Apex Racing Academy inherit the race lead. And the bus stop claims yet another victim. Hard into the wall, body parts go flying, right rear suspension torn from the car. Valtteri Alander makes the mistake. Hits the wall on entry as well. BS Turner are done for the day. So now, 43 minutes to go. Down to 11 running LMDH cars. We'll just keep you informed as well. There is potentially going to be some post-race investigation that has to come down between the Williams Esports Fanatec car and then the Urano Esports Huawei entries. Keep an eye out on social media. RaceSpot.TV/BMW as well is a great place to get live updates with everything going on in that race control booth. Boy, are they being made to work for their money today. This is one of those drivers that does have a penalty that we've already mentioned. 20-second penalty for Team PGZ. Right now, we'll drop them back outside of the top 10 and outside of the points-paying positions. But at this rate and this level of attrition, one by one, they could just be all falling over each other, and PGZ could still get some points away from this race, and they're probably not going to finish on the podium. It does mean that it's a really impressive job that we're seeing out of this Williams Esports Hoisingveld entry. First out of Cody Deeth, who started back in 14th spot and now runs net second after handing over that car. A lot of fuel saving in that first stint for Cody Deeth, and after handing over to the Polish driver, steady so far. Swap around for second. And here's Movano that finally are able to get the move done. So now the 91 in third, the 199 in fourth. Could be a double podium here for the Apex Racing Academy program. Can also tell you that responsibility for the incident up through the S's that took out Drago Sim Racing, well, unfortunately, incident responsibility has been placed on Drago. And so even though they are out of the race, the stewards have deemed them worthy of a 10-second penalty. On to pit lane, though, come the Apex Racing Academy 198 car. Has inherited the race lead. An interesting set of circumstances, yes, but it's about what you make with it. Owen Carroll out, and Paddy Wolf will jump in. Former Redline, former Veloce prototype driver. Feels weird to see Paddy Wolf in an quote-unquote academy car, but nevertheless, that's the job he's got to do for the next 40-odd minutes. So Gulbranson also into pit lane, by the way. So is Vlad Kimichev. Paddy Wolf drops and rolls and finds himself some traffic to deal with. But at least a pocket of clean air with which to climb up through the S's and start to get those tires up to temperature and pressure. All now in that quest to try and grab second and make it or rather grab first and hope that the 199 can grab second and make it a 1-2 for the Apex Racing Academy. They work around some traffic. Williams Esports BenQ, Kamil Grabowski at the front of the train. For 8th position, Jesse Jones in that BMW M SIM Cup privateer car. Former professional motorcycle rider, racer, Jesse Jones, from what I understand as well. And the two BMW BS competition entries. Scott and then Felix Quernbach. Some separation has started to form. Here are those final pit stops, though. Chivy Chabo out. It's Will Redford that's going to take over in the 199. Fraser Williamson into the number 72. Who did confirm to me, by the way, that using the correct old-school Movano number 72 number as well. Dropping off the jacks. Nice and tidy, all things considered. Where is Paddy Wolf, you wonder? Blasting his way clear in towards your race lead. There's Will Redford going to come out just behind Fraser Williamson. And you can see some of that traffic that they're having to deal with. Williamson almost straight into the side of a Redline car. That's a real wake-up call. Out onto track and having to figure things out. Official complaint incoming, by the way, to the Movano livery department. Your car looks too much like Redline's car now, because it's got a red line down the center of it. Unless you're changing your name to Movano Redline, I think we've got to let the red line be with Movano. With Redline, excuse me. Williamson is going to have to deal with Redford, though. Just 9/10 between the two of them. 37 minutes to run. Anything else from race control of note? No, not really. There was no further action for a couple of different things that happened. Remember, Kenneth Gulbranson in the Williams Esports Fanatec car had his incident through the final corner where he got turned by his own teammate. No further action there. Jumping into our iRacing Esports network, by the way. Someone saying that they're wondering how they can learn skills here on iRacing. And I'll just remind everyone, these are public races. Everyone can compete in the BMW M SIM Cup. Now, we won't always turn our microscope on you, so if you have any issues, it doesn't mean that we're always going to be cycling through replays. We only broadcast the top split. There's only prize money for the top split. It's a great opportunity for you to get some endurance racing reps in and to be part of an official BMW esports competition. I talk a lot about how the accessibility of sim racing is no better exemplified than iRacing, and its diversity in options. Yes, you can come here and race BMWs if you really want to. You can pretend you are Jensen Button, Mike Rockenfeller, Jimmy Johnson, race a NASCAR stock car around the Circuit de la Sarthe if you really choose to. Can go dirt oval racing, can go dirt road racing. So many options for you to find your own niche, and even if you don't think that you have any interest in doing dirt road racing, dirt oval racing, trust me, once you start iRacing, maybe you'll try it out. Maybe you'll get a little bit of a glimpse into what the worlds are like. And just a week ago, I got to go to my very first dirt racing event in person. Never seen dirt racing growing up, but I've commentated on both of the iRacing World of Outlaws Championships. Love myself a bit of dirt racing. You never know what you'll see here in the world of iRacing. Speaking of dirt stuff, iRacing Off-Road Championship kicks off at the end of this month. So, you never seen that before? Something else for you to maybe fall in love with. Race Control says that the way of the number 72 Movano Sim Racing team is going to be a 10-second penalty for avoidable contact. So that's going to mean that they drop behind likely Race Clutch's 22 machine, but that car is yet to come down to pit lane. So Movano might only drop down to 5th position. Again, just to reiterate, Race Control is having to work through a flurry of incidents today, and I'm sure that the results we show you at the end of this will be provisional more than anything. So Fraser Williamson didn't do the crime, but has to do the time. In effect, it will be added at the end of the race to his race time, but yes. That's a line that I'm going to have to steal for a future endurance racing event. Good point also brought up in the iRacing Esports Network. There's so many resources available nowadays. Whether you want coaching from VRS, Apex. Remember, the Apex Racing Academy runs 1 and 3. A lot of those drivers and coaches offer their experience to those trying to learn a little bit more as well. I would say that if you want to do some of the more niche things, so especially dirt racing in particular, that you're going to have to find the resources in the community, because there are always people that are willing to help, although the bus stop chicane is seemingly very willing to bite, and Apex Racing Academy, well, no double podium now. Will Redford, that right front suspension, very much worse for the wear. So once again, the bus stop rears its head. Let's check out what happens here. It's curb, it's familiar, it's a big clonk into the wall, and it's Will Redford back down on pit lane. It's right on board, and the car gets unsettled off of the ground. That seems to be what's the major issue, is losing contact point with the racing surface. And so yeah, unfortunately, now promotes Urano and Race Clutch up to the podium spot. Although again, Marius Valiokis is yet to come down pit lane. Fraser Williamson may still walk away with a podium after a 10-second penalty. There are plenty of resources though, that's what I was kind of getting at. Go into iRacing forums, not always now the most helpful. but community discords. Find people who may have setups for you, and if not setups, may give you the tools that you need to understand how to build setups, which is even more valuable at the end of the day. And telemetry, I think that was what I was trying to kind of say. Even if you're not learning setup things, understanding how other drivers are finding speed is so important. So when I was trying to get a little bit better, finding telemetry from some of the drivers I was racing against was important, and there's plenty of tools that you can use to find speed. One of my teammates that has developed a lot of setup tutorials about how to develop setups for the Dallara IR18 that you can find across the iRacing forums. He works in the IndyCar paddock. Last week he was part of the crew that won the Indy 500. So this is what I was saying earlier. There are parallels about engineering principles that you can carry forward, and so there is a lot to say about what iRacing can give you in terms of a mindset to go out and compete in motorsports. Josh Thompson runs in front of Elvis Rankin, someone that knows exactly the value of iRacing in real-world motorsport. The winner of the Skip Barber Racing Series last year, a seat that he got after coming second in the Skip Barber iRacing Formula Series. Took his opportunity with both hands. Elvis Rankin has not looked back since. He's over in the UK, trying to find some options for some real-world drives. Unfortunately, it's not all panned out for him, but very quick driver. Looking to rack up some good championship points here, although the issue very much becomes with Chris Lullam and Diogo Pinto on for, what's their third victory of the year in 5 races? Might end up being a little bit of a runaway, is I think what I'm trying to say. Still haven't seen Team Hoistingveld, I did it again. Williams Esports Hoistingveld get past the Team PGZ car. It's not because there's any distance between the two of them, just look how close that they're getting. Not sure if Garcia's aware of the 20 seconds that he is going to get added to his race time at the end. He's frustrating the Williams Esports car, that's for sure. And it's allowed Thompson, Rankin, Steinbratton, even Konstantin Scharf in the Urano Esports HP car to close up that gap. There is Marius Valiokis in the Race Clutch black car. Up on the jacks for the final time today. It's a lengthy pit stop. And they drop and roll just 22 seconds in. So they cut about 10 seconds off of that stop. About a third of the time saved in the pit lane. Makes sense given that it's about a third of a stint that they've chopped off of it. They'll stay on the lead lap, but they're down to 7th. And confirmation that Williams Esports, the Movano number 72 car that got a penalty for its part in some contact with a Williams Esports car, with its 10-second penalty, is going to hold on to a step on the podium, at least as it stands right now. See some comments about TK in the iRacing Esports Network. Don't forget, TK's got his own esports team. Kanan Esports in eNASCAR Coca-Cola. And of course in the just wrapped up iRacing Road World Championship, TXC Racing by TK represented by Gustavo Ariel. Did grab a couple of race victories over the course of the season. Which, if the stat books aren't wrong, are the first Brazilian World Championship wins since Hugo Luis, RaceSpot's own, going on a decade ago. Always have to throw that in there when I can. Finally, I thought for a moment Team PGZ's stranglehold on second was going to be cracked. Not just yet. If PGZ is not aware of their penalty, our Williams, our Redline, our Apex, do they know that they don't have to necessarily make the pass happen on track, and so the fight for third on track is really the fight for second in results? Might mean they don't have to worry about George Garcia. He's still there though, still punching a hole in the air and giving a bit of draft. A turned down draft as well, much to the chagrin of many at the previous iRacing build week. Just means that drivers have to work harder to make their moves happen. Is anyone really going to complain about that? I don't really think so. We like seeing our drivers have to work hard for moves, and we like seeing the cars really being pushed to their limits. Especially useful when we're not really too worried about tire conservation anymore. Here's the onboard up the S's with the Apex Racing team. The turbo-powered engine in this M4 GT3 spools them up through the hill. We did discuss this last week, but personal opinion of the commentator, I love this M Hybrid V8 sound. So it's a much older engine legacy-wise, you know, the origins of this engine go back to previous BMW racing cars. Even though it's turbo-powered, it revs a little bit higher and it just sings a little bit more. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll have the third of the VCO Grand Slams, the latest iRacing special event, the Watkins Glen 6 hours. All indications make it seem like we're not going to have just one GTP car in the field. And so it means that, A, the GTP drivers are now going to get to complain about balance of performance, which is a real shame because, well, give drivers an excuse to complain and they'll complain about anything. But yes, we'll see how it works out. I am looking forward to seeing what it will be like though, and how two cars develop speeds in different ways. Oh, big bobble for the Williams Esports hoisting Velt car. Big dash of curb through the entry to the bus stop, and Josh Thompson sees his opportunity on his former team, goes around the outside. Josh Thompson, net second spot. Elvis Rankin sees the door open as well. He slides on through. Steinbratton completes the train that takes Williams Esports hoisting Velt from 3rd to 6th through the space of 3 corners. If you were worried, if you didn't think there was commitment from Williams Esports, boy, just watch this onboard. Slip and slide. Tyus Nojad does a great job to hold on to the car, then just ride with Steinbratton, and this is where it's so difficult to funnel into line. He just didn't have the speed down into the entry to the boot to hold on to the spot, and once Rankin was through, there was really not going to be much that he could do to hold off the charge of Steinbratton. That's racecraft. In multi-class racing, split-second decisions make such a difference. RaceSpot.tv/BMW if you want to follow along with some live race updates and everything out of race control. That's the place where you can get word from our team behind the scenes. The team behind the scenes might have more to deal with if Ollie Steinbratton can get past Elvis Rankin in the aggressive fashion that he wants to. They've lost a bit of ground to Josh Thompson for the time being. Great to see Josh back up in the thick of things. He's had a bit of a rough 18 months, to be fair, in terms of being involved in incidents, sometimes feeling like he wasn't up to the speed of his teammates, and just need some of those one-off results sometimes to get your mindset flipped and to be a little bit more confident about what's going on. Less than 25-ish minutes to go. No battles for the lead. It's red line in GT3 on course for what's going to be a 4th row in a win for the team. I think it's going to be the 2nd win in a row, or 3rd win in a row for Lallem and Pinto. If they hold on as is, 2nd win in a row for Lallem or Pinto, excuse me. Meanwhile, in the LMDH, it is still Paddy Wolf in the Apex Racing Academy car that looks like they're all on their way to the victory in a championship that's about to be blown wide open, with Urano having relative struggles. So it's important to have multiple cars in the fight. Urano led 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 at points. Kimichev and Wallmeyer were tied effectively for 3rd, only a handful of points off of the lead. They'll leapfrog themselves into the lead once again. See how the likes of Lorenzo, Hoffman, Delict, and Shrivens fare up when we head over to Spa in a couple of weeks' time. Get a great view of the trees as they work down through that entry to the boot section. You can kind of see the rubber off on the outside as well. Track evolution, definitely something to keep in mind. There's going to be a look here from Ole Steinbrat, and yes, there is. Elvis Rankin gives it up pretty easily. Thought for a second Grabowski was going to do the same and try a look to the inside, but it's necessarily a realistic gap, you'd have to say. Than 20 minutes though. It's now a sprint to the end. Any strategy mind games that were being played earlier can be put aside. It's the fight on track to the finish that will ultimately matter. I guess somewhat relevant is where the race leader is going to end up faring out in relation to your GT3 leader, and how many laps we should expect said GT3 cars to have to do. Wolf is heading out of the S's and actually close up to the gaggle that is involved in that fight for 2nd in the GT3 class sooner rather than later, and so maybe we'll get the opportunity to lap them once more, but given that we've already seen this season cars run out of fuel on the final lap, I apologize for throwing certain teams under the bus. Sorry, Apex Racing team. But yes, just definitely something that must be kept in mind. Not on the side of the LMDH cars, again, to reiterate, but more a concern for the GT3s that are less in control as to how many laps they will end up doing and always want to put in as little fuel as possible into the car. Save some time on pit lane. Let's watch Paddy Wolf here, just set his way up through traffic. Look at the way he sets the car up on power down to use the hybrid to get a better exit and to be clear before they even get to the apexes. He's also not trying to force his way down to the inside. That's a car being handled by someone with experience in traffic, but more importantly, with a 3.5-second gap to a car that has got a 10-second penalty to be handed down at the end of the race as well. Ravano and Williamson will follow through as well. But a little bit more nervous moments there as they catch the mid part of that train just at the apex of the S's. PGZ finally passed It's Josh Thompson that makes his way on through. How are they going to decide to play things out from here? Circle back to Jesse Jones in the privateer car. Oh, gets a little bit loose, gets a little bit checked up, and then Sim RC with not much time to react, end up running into the back. On board we'll jump with Adam Isaacson. It's also just that traffic that slowed the momentum of Jones up. Jones, who has signed with Door Esports from what I understand, continues to compete with Lebigra in that privateer car. Big move there for Grabowski to bully his way on forward. Elvis Rankin's having to defend from the Williams Esports hoisting belt car. Apex slightly on the back foot, you'd have to say. Especially now with Redline and Thompson separating themselves at the line from Team PGZ. It's a good 9/10 of a second that Thompson's established on one lap alone. Final 15 minutes of this race. Good thing that we have some fun stuff happening out on track. We don't have to talk about the black pudding and pizza stuff anymore. That's for sure. Because that was one of the conversations of all time. No changes into the chicane. There's Garcia. In front of Steinbratton and not really helping out the second Redline car. There is a danger here of a Redline sweep of the podium. I honestly do not remember off the top of my head as to whether we've seen it before in a previous round of the BMW Sim GT Cup. There's the look again by Williams Esports down the inside of Elvis Rankin, and door gets slammed shut. Rankin returns the favor. Back up the inside, puff of smoke. Steinbratton has gone off. As they were fighting behind, did Steinbratton go for a move and come unstuck? It's only one way to find out. Let's see it. And I think he's got bigger issues. Big drama into the wall. Rear diffuser gets torn off that machine. And Steinbratton has had to head back down to pit lane. There was enough overlap to go down low. I think we're going to need to try and look from up above. Very difficult one to pick apart. He does miss the apex by about half a lane, but the PGZ car has got to turn in. Elvis Rankin lost his opportunity to turn in through that bus stop chicane. And the Apex Racing team go from being up in 4th to 7th through one small mistake. The undercut LMDH car slithers its way on through. Redline's chance at a podium lockout gone in the blink of an eye, but the 1 and 2 should be relatively secure, you'd have to think. Thompson's been able to gap the train for third on back now to the tune of 2 full seconds. Is that what I get for saying that we don't have to talk about black pudding pizza anymore? Seems like it. I don't know. I am very excited as well for both this weekend, this coming weekend, next weekend, to see how our friends over at NASCAR get on in their journey over to the French countryside with a heavily modified car. I'm totally not jealous of Jenson Button, Jimmy Johnson, or Mike Rockenfeller. They maybe have the coolest car in the world this year that they get to be a part of, and an entire program. Going to be interesting to see how it survives for 24 long hours. Still waiting for more race control things. I get the sense the PGZ redline crash that we just saw, Steinbraten the only victim as a result of that, will be taken post-race. Our poor stewards are gonna have to stay around for a little bit. M&M chocolate pizza is being suggested. See, this is where my suggestion of an ice cream pizza, actually, I'm curious what that would be like. An ice cream cake is not bad. I've had ice cream roti prata, like I said earlier. I take an ice cream pizza. Intrigues me. Does that say more about me than anything else? I don't know. So, still, that silver liveried hoisting belt car tries to work its way on through. Has already got third position, let's not forget, with the penalty coming down for PGZ, just to remind you of that. Is this a chance for them to finally pull alongside and get in front? Door to door into the 90. Garcia's not content to give it up, but with a car on his inside as he tried to turn in, it's one Williams Esports car that goes on through. The second will now follow. Grabowski sees the door opened by his teammate. Now we'll have to use the draft from the teammate as well. This is where you'll see the hoisting foot car staying to the inside, helping Grabowski to clear the PGZ GT3 car well and truly before the corner. Oh! And now Grabowski makes contact with the race clutch number 22. That drops in behind Apex and Urano. Look away, like I said earlier, blink, and there'll be a car off the road. So it was Marius Valiokis that was trying to go the long way around. Unfortunately, maybe too long. Look from up above. That's an interesting angle, actually, to look from. Might need perspective of Team PGZ. Riding as our camera car. Race clutch comes down, Williams comes up, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, at least in my mind. Not the first time we've seen that, though. Don't forget DBM Beyond Blue, the 862. We saw them in a similar incident in the first cycle through on traffic. So not the first, not the last, I am sure, that we'll see. So less than 10 minutes to run. Where's Paddy Wolf? Like I said, was going to get one more opportunity to pass some lap traffic in the GT3 class. That's what he's coming up towards now. Still a relatively simple day. Movano will drop to third as a result of that post-race penalty. Urano's 91 will cycle up towards second and gain those extra points as well. Don't forget that the Race Clutch Williams incident probably now going to be added to the list of things that our stewards will investigate post-race. Hopefully Jesse Jones and Carlos Diaz don't give them more to investigate post-race. Fight for 15th. Up into the bus stop. One recovering car. One car that qualified badly and has been recovering ever since. Arnage's number 18 machine, a +9 from where they started. Number 69 is down 10 from where they started. A tale of two very, very different races. But that is the story of the BMW M SIM Cup most of the time. That's why it's such an interesting ride, and why every time we go racing, especially now that it's a multi-class format, we do kind of have the expectation for the unexpected. Speaking of the unexpected, can Williams Esports Fanatec get back up into the top 5 after they clomped the wall earlier? Jing to the outside in towards the heel. And not even going to be fought there by Peter Zuber. The Hungarian content to finish this race in 5th. And finish indeed. Means we can check back on in with a couple more juking cars. It's Apex going right. It's SimRC trying to juke left. Just a hair left between the two of them. SimRC has a bit more speed on entry into the bus stop, but with the inside line, Michael Yanni holds on to the spot, forces Adam Isaacson to compromise. These are those fade that sometimes get thrown. That can very much cause issues. So PGZ still the bottleneck. Williams Esports Hoisting Belt have now got a stranglehold on 3rd. They will look comfortable to that 3rd step on the podium. It's now Urano HP and the Apex Racing team effectively fighting for 4th here. Through back onto the regular short layout they will run. Would be very interesting to have a multi-class. Oh. I've just got a week 13 idea. Multi-class race. M Hybrid, M4 GT3. Watkins Glen, no boots, no bus stop. I'm just saying, I think we're going to have to try that on RaceSpotTV at some point. Get the BMW spare parts bin to the race for that one. They'll have a decent amount of work and business heading their direction. It's the fun thing about sim racing is we don't have to always be hardcore sim. Sometimes we can have some fun as well. Paddy Wolf's hoping no fun between him and the checkered flag. Just a victory in the BMW M SIM Cup, and of course the split of $1,000 that the winners in each class will get. So, not a bad Sunday by any means. I'll head off to the line this time by probably to take what should be 4 laps to go, maybe 3 laps to go. When's your leader going to cross the line? 4 laps to go, I think, is indeed what we are going to see. So 4 opportunities for drivers to make an impact in the closing stages of this race. So you've got Grabowski, who's now also got Felix Quirnbach in a BS competition car latching back onto Urano as well as Apex. Here comes the look to the inside from Elvis Rankin, though. Not much that Konstantin Scharf can do into the 90. It's going to be about setting things up out of here, though. Grabowski's already got to the inside of the Urano red and black car, though. 1 spot lost becomes 2. And now hoping not to make it 3. Gonna have to make sure that they single file themselves out, although in these closing stages, maybe there is a little bit more impetus. Scharf indeed drops behind Quirnbach as well, though. Even with a turn down draft, significant enough it would seem. If you make a mistake through turn number 1, that you are losing all that momentum up the hill into the bus stop, and you'll lose a couple more spots. Something to keep in mind for the 6 hours as well. I wonder what the tyres are going to feel like. We'll be curious if the drivers can join us for some post-race coverage afterwards. What learnings they'll take out of this one, and not just halfway through the BMW M SIM Cup campaign, but of course with a return to Watkins Glen only 2 weeks away. Don't think there is too much drama right now for Paddy Wolf as your race leader. Same thing can be said for Diogo Pinto in the GT3 lead. He's off, heading up towards the S's. Has a full 13-second margin over Josh Thompson, his teammate. What a day for Redline once again. So 2 laps to run then. Where are we going to see the swap arounds? Maybe Elvis Rankin content to ride behind Garcia to the line. It's going to be the case, though, for the likes of Quirnbach, for Grabowski. No change this time by. Is Konstantin Scharf having to save some fuel? As he has lost a whole bunch of ground and is, I think, more worried about the fact that Michael Yanni might be in a spot to get a move done here. It's been impressive. The speed and consistency from Garcia, all things considered. Yes, he does have that 20-second penalty, but Team PGZ, I think, will walk away knowing that they've got a good handle on the car here at Watkins. And I wonder what car they'll show up with for the special event. How they'll elect to play the race out. As your leaders come across the line to take the white flag, already on to the final lap of the race for the Apex Racing Academy car. Unfortunately, it's not plain sailing for everybody. And just watch and listen. We mentioned that we've seen on a handful of occasions drivers have run out of fuel. Williams Esport Playseat came in earliest of them all, ran out of fuel with 1 lap to run. Felix Quirnbach in a fight for 5th. This is going to be intriguing. Scharf has dropped down to 8th in that Urano entry. Our drivers struggling on fuel. Well, we're about to find out. One driver not struggling on fuel, though, is the Apex Racing Academy. It's been a tumultuous day here in upstate New York. Plenty of bowling, but none for the Apex Racing Academy. Paddy Wolf, as well as Owen Carroll, on top in Watkins Glen in this 5th round of the BMW M SIM Cup. Congratulations go their way, the Apex Racing Academy. Their first win as a program in this M SIM Cup. Not the first time, though, that we've seen the Apex Racing team victorious. We will wait, though, for Team Redline, for Diogo Pinto. For Redline, it's about to be 4 wins on the bounce. For Pinto and for Lolland, it's their 2nd win in a row, their 3rd this season. They're running away with the championship. They could very well be in a position to miss the final couple of races and still walk away your season champions. Take a bow, Diogo Pinto and Chris Lolland, winners of round 5 of the BMW M SIM Cup. 13 seconds clear of what is expected to be a Team Redline 1 and 2. Josh Thompson puts the past 18 months slightly behind him and grabs a Redline double podium. Behind them is going to be Williams Esports hoisting Velt. That grabbed 3rd. 4th will be not the Apex Racing team. It will be Felix Quirnbach. A drag race to the line. Elvis Rankin loses out. Felix Quirnbach, 17 positions gained for BS Competitions 189. What a remarkable day it was for them. We'll wait for the rest of the field to come across the line in another intriguing episode of this BMW M SIM Cup. We'll grab a look then at your race results, and we will head on down to Victory Lane to chat with both the Apex Racing Academy and Team Redline crews. Don't forget, very much unofficial race results, because boy, does Race Control have plenty still to work through. Paddy Wolf on top for the Apex Racing Academy. Along with Owen Carroll, deserved winners walk away with $1,000 to share amongst the two of them. It's Fraser Williamson that will drop down to 3rd behind the Urano Esports Data Group car that salvaged some points. Vlad Kimichev, as well as Jonas Warmeyer, will retake the championship lead. Movano, Williamson and Bowe grab 3rd, the final step of the podium, before we get to the first of the Williams Esports cars. Mike Partington in the Williams Esports Marla car in front of Kenneth Gulbranson, recovering to a top 5 finish. Peter Zuber finishes in 6th in front of Will Redford for the Apex Racing Academy, who did head back out onto track, albeit 1 lap down. Race Clutch got involved in a tangle with a GT3 car in the closing stages. After an early pit stop, they were always off cycle. They're down in 8th in front of the Boostin VDS by undercut car. And then Team DBM Beyond Blue complete the top 10, 2 laps down. Distinct.gg at least get past the first lap this time, although still not a very easy race by any means. Danny Lorenzo for Urano in front of Drago's Shemislav Lemonek, BS Turner, Urano Esports Huawei, Williams Esports Chill Blast, Obsidian, and then BS Plus competition amongst those that do not make it to the end of the race. In the much larger GT3 class, Redline 1 and 2, Pinto Lallam, 2 in a row, but more importantly, I think that momentum that we're seeing from Redline, ominous signs across the board. First time I've seen the Williams Esports hoisting Velt car, hopefully not the last as they grab the final step on the podium in front of the likes of BS Competition, who pipped the Apex Racing Team duo in a drag race to the checkered flag. Behind them, Urano Esports HP, maybe having to save some fuel, but finishing in front of SimRC, Williams Esports BenQ, and then the Drago Racing GT car. That's your top 10 in class, with just 6 more cars left on the lead lap. The Urano Esports Hiking Median 191, Arnage Competition and Eddie Purcell, BS Competitions number 9, Arnage Competition, BMW M SIM Cup Privateers, and then Team PGZ, who did come down onto pit lane. Not sure if that was them getting out of trouble with potentially a fight behind, or if it was fuel necessitated regardless. Means they will likely finish 16th spot regardless. Coffin Dancers, I did see get tangled up in something on the closing laps of the race, down to 17th for them in front of Japard, Arnage, and a second Japard entry. That's your top 20 with Gordy Much for the Apex Racing team down in 21st after Jimmy Antunes got collected in some of the shenanigans through the S's. Just VG Racing Esports left 1 lap down with Williams Esports play seat running out of fuel in the closing stages, but still in front of ATRS Esports, the 3rd red line entry, and then our pole position sitter, Grid and Go Esports. Not classified for the likes of BS Turner, Door Esports, Williams Esports, and then of course the Valkyrie competition car, a second Door Esports entry, and a second Williams Esports playseat car. Not confused at all there. Someone definitely did not register in the wrong car. Why don't we make our way though down towards Victory Lane, where we can have a chat with our winners today. Let's see if we can dial up first Owen Carroll, who took the qualifying session, took the start, and then found himself watching on as Paddy Wolf took the lead. Owen, what was that race like from your perspective?
Man, that was the most hectic race I've ever done. Super scary through traffic, and managing the bus stop in this car as well. It's super treacherous. But yeah, I mean, managed to pull it off. Of course, there was a bunch of incidents here and there which we were able to pick our way through and not come out with any damage, which was the main thing. So just keeping it clean and consistent was the main aim. But yeah, it was super hectic. But glad we came out on top.
I've got to ask, you guys have shown some speed this season. I remember Daytona, the speed. Not much luck. Now that you've got some luck, how are you guys feeling in this Apex Racing Academy LMDH program? Because you've got Paddy, you've got yourself, you've got a handful of top-level prototype drivers. Yeah,
indeed. I'm feeling confident. You know, obviously the luck's definitely on our side this race. We came away with quite a few lucky instances as well. So yeah, I'm feeling happy, relieved, obviously for finally to grab a win, and confident for the rounds going ahead.
I've got to ask, we've got the 6 hours of the Glen coming up in 2 weeks' time. Any learnings out of this? What can you carry forward into what is not really a much longer race?
Oh, definitely gonna adapt the same kind of style we had for this race for sure. You know, I think for me, managing the tyres was the main aim of it, as for everyone else as well, and I kind of got that to a good point. So just taking it into the next race as well, and possibly even in the Cadillac, would be pretty cool. But yeah, nothing much is hopefully going to change, and hopefully we can pull off the same result in a few weeks' time.
I guess it'll be interesting if you can carry this setup forward in 2 weeks. Congratulations, Owen. Congratulations to Paddy as well. Winners in the BMW M SIM Cup. That was Owen Carroll. Let's head over to the GT3 winners, though, where once again it's Chris Lallam, it's Diogo Pinto. Chris Lallam joins us now. Chris, 13.6 seconds clear at the end of the race, but I guess it's really that first stint that was the most chaotic for you in that GT3 class.
Yeah, the traffic with the prototypes, man. You really drive with one eye on the mirror when they're coming to, especially the first few times with when they're all bunched up together. But Yeah, for me, the gap was made via management. You know, it's super hot weather here, so you look after your tires, and then you can build the gaps at the end of the race, end of the stints.
And I was kind of going to ask about that because we saw it last time we went racing in this BMW M SIM Cup at the Nürburgring Grand Prix, where Redline were able to slightly break away at the front in the closing stages. Is that tire related, or is that also management of the traffic related? Because you say you're looking in the rearview mirror, you're watching those cars as they come to you, but I talk a lot about how it's not always just run your own line, but you as a GT3 class can dictate the flow of the LMDH traffic on occasion.
Yeah, you have to pick the right line. You can't. It's all about efficiency, really, with traffic. You know, when they're coming in, you gotta lift at the right point. You gotta make sure there's no unnecessary slip, because on this platform, you know, it's super sensitive to all this. We've done a pretty good job with it so far this season. Looks like that's where our advantage is.
Traffic management is one of those things that's so hard to actually discuss and talk about on a broadcast perspective. So let's talk about traffic management in a 6-hour race in a couple of weeks' time, Chris, because this is the perfect precursor for the Watkins Glen 6 hours, which Redline have a great history at. The last time we had 3 classes of competition there, you guys won all 3 of them.
Yeah, that was with the GTs and everything as well. Yeah, the death rate, I think, is quite high here because of the uphill sector out of turn 1. You go up through the S's, it's very easy to have a misunderstanding, and that misunderstanding at 280 kilometers an hour is race ending always. Yeah, that mortality rate is going to be high, but if you can survive, you know, you're always having a good result there.
Well, congratulations, Chris, on a 3rd win this season, 2 in a row. You guys aren't far removed from setting more BMW M SIM Cup history, so we'll see you in Spa in a month's time to continue the second half of the season.
Yeah, thank you, Arjuna.
Always good to chat with Chris Lawler. And we'll talk with one more Redline driver very quickly, because I do believe that Josh Thompson joins us now in the broadcast booth, coming across the line second in the Redline 1 and 2. Josh, looked like a rather chaotic stint for you there as you worked behind a PGZ car that owed us a penalty, and then finally were able to break away.
Yeah, like you said, it was a bit chaotic. Obviously, I came out, I think it was like 8th or 7th or something like that after a stop, so I had to get on with it a little bit. I knew the car had the pace in it from testing. Chris kind of proved that in the first stint, just driving away. Diogo had the gap and showed the pace as well. So, same as Chris, what he said, just had to manage the tyres at the start, bide my time, just wait for it to come to me. And once I knew the tyres in a good window, and I knew I had the optimum pace, that was it. I just had to go for it. Picked them off one by one. Got a bit fortunate with like the Williams car making a mistake, but end of the day, you can't. Like, it just is what it is. Like, I had to take the opportunity when I could, so I did. And yeah, just from there, I knew I could get past the PGZ car because I had no tyres, plus the penalty. But yeah, after that, it was still a bit nerve-wracking to the end because the Williams car did have the pace at the end because it could go full pace because it went the extra laps in the first stint. So I had to manage that with my fuel. But end of the day, we still managed to get P1, P2. So yeah, over the moon with it.
You stole my question. I was actually literally just going to ask how you deal with that extra lap. So what I'll ask about instead is the high track temperature and therefore the high tire wear that we're dealing with. Chris had said there's a lot of management that comes into the start so that you can be quick at the end. What's it going to mean for us, though, going into the longer 6-hour race in a couple of weeks' time, where maybe we'll have drivers actually double stinting themselves? Are we going to see anything interesting in terms of tires, or is it very boring now that we can do tires and fuel at the same time?
I don't know. We'll have to see, because there has been a few cases in this season especially, like there has been times where you can double stint, but obviously here the tyre wear is so hard on the left sides. I think it's going to be pretty standard, like full tyres, full tank, go every stop. So let's see. I hope something happens in the build. Maybe it spices up a little bit because I think that will actually then draw the racing and bring it a bit more alive. I think otherwise you are kind of relying on the death rate, like Chris said. It's quite a aggressive event because it's 6 hours. It's a sprint race pretty much. So have to see.
Just so you're aware, I'm going to have a death rate graphic for this broadcast coming up.
Oh, amazing.
Sponsored by Team Redline, so just make sure you don't add to the count too much, okay?
Yeah, we won't. We'll try.
Congratulations, Josh, on second. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you.
Always good to talk to the drivers, and yes, hopefully the death rate not being added to too much by our fine friends over at Team Redline. It's going to wrap up our post-race interviews. Does not mean we're done and dusted in terms of looking forward to what's coming next, because didn't really talk about it with too many of the drivers, but half the season is done in this first ever multi-class BMW esports offering. This BMW M SIM Cup has flown by in this first half of the year, and now as we head to the back half of the campaign, it's where we'll start to be a little bit more international. 5 races so far, 4 in the US. Now, Spa up next, a trip to one of the most famous tracks in global motorsports. Everyone knows about Spa, and it puts on a show no matter what car that you bring as well. The slipstream up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon in towards the Lecombe chicane, going to be so pivotal to seeing how drivers can fare out in this race. Let's not forget, Josh Thompson brings up a great point. An iRacing build just around the corner. In 2 days' time, we'll know what these GT3 cars, what these GTP cars feel like compared to what they have felt like for the previous months, and what changes, what adjustments have to be made, not just to setup, but to driving style as well. Remember how important the two will come together throughout the rest of this season. July 2nd, of course, same time, same place, live on the iRacing Esports Network, live on RaceSpotTV. After that, a couple of extra weeks off before we return at Fuji for what will be round 7, the first of 2 Japanese rounds. A trip to Road Atlanta. There's no better way to go into October to close out the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. TBA. Now, I'll let you guys decide what you think that should be. I've got my opinions on where we should go, and it's not so that we can make sure Frodo could be free. There's definitely not a track coming this next week in iRacing that I would love to see what the Hobbits would do around there. Suzuka, a classic, and a place that has so much history to determine championships, but also in our BMW M SIM Cup history books and our folklore, so much that we can talk about there. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. Half the year is done. Half the season is still left to go. Virtual BMW Motorsports still left to rumble on in 2023. On behalf of everyone at iRacing, at BMW Esports, and at RaceSpotTV, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside a hardworking team of Race Control, saying thank you so much for joining us here in upstate New York. We'll see you in July in the Ardennes to continue with the 2023 BMW M SIM Cup.